This file is about the 96 tracks of the AIS announcement machine. Hello again, everyone. I posted something about editing together recordings of the old AIS and got an amazing response. I thought it would bore everyone to death. One person even said that his wife overheard it and got it and appreciated it. Wow! Okay, so I have no idea. So I've gotten a few questions, and let me just answer them, although this will be kind of monotonous, I think. Yes, the AIS had 96 tracks on the magnetic drum machine. And in case you're curious as to what the track numbers were, I have the list here because I got this myself by calling the AISs in various places. Back in 1974, I was DTing AIS test numbers in order to hear all the phrases. It all started on an actual visit to the Hempstead AIS. Now, the Hempstead AIS had two special localities that it used. If a number was changed to New York City, it would say the 7-digit number, and then it would say,
in New York City, in the 212 area.
And the phrase in New York City and 212 area were recorded on 1500 millisecond phrases. They were custom phrases because a lot of numbers were changed to New York City. Another one that Hempstead used was
in New Jersey, in the 201 area.
And those were the only two that it used. But when I went into the AIS, the guy took a banana plug and touched it to the various banana jacks that were associated with the tracks on the announcement machine. And it turns out they had special localities they weren't using. So not only did we hear,
the number you have reached, the number you have reached, the number you have reached,
and
oh, 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 oh.
We heard things like,
in Brooklyn, in Brooklyn, in Brooklyn, in Staten Island, in Staten Island, in Staten Island,
etc. And it was all Jane, of course, saying these, full fidelity, right through the speaker. Well, that sort of planted a seed, and then I ended up later calling up these AISs and asking them to put in test numbers just so I could hear and record those phrases. And the damn thing was, in those days, I didn't have this voice. I had a very unconvincing voice. I should never, ever have attempted human engineering, but I did, for the benefit of getting the AIS phrases on tape. So in that work, I found out what the 96 tracks were. So let me put this somewhere, and this file can be edited or whatever anybody wants to do with it. The lower 48 were the ones you usually hear, so here are the lower 48. Track 1.
The number you have reached.
Track 2.
Has been changed.
Track 3.
The new number is.
Track 4.
To a non-published number.
Track 5.
To a non-listed number.
Track 6.
In the.
There was an alternate take.
In the.
But this phrase had to change in phase 2 of AIS. I'm making up these phase numbers myself. I'm sure they did have issue numbers of the software, but I don't know what those are. So I'm going to call the original AIS format and phrases phase 1. A modification to the format to accommodate New York, phase 1A. And then there were 3 major overhauls beyond that, each of which involved changing the phrases. I'm calling those phase 2, phase 3, and phase 4. Phase 2 was tested in Manhattan in 1974 and was implemented nationally during 74 and 75. Phase 3 was tested in Jacksonville in 1978 and was implemented nationally during 1980. There was Phase 4, where sometime in the middle 1980s, they changed the formats to avoid having to use an operator. And the usual pattern was to repeat the information another time and then terminate with reorder, and then end the announcement and never go to the operator. For phase 2, this phrase became
in area code,
and there was an alternate.
In area code.
Track 7 was
has been disconnected.
This did not have an alternate, but for phase 3 it was re-recorded for no good reason.
Has been disconnected.
Track 8.
For incoming calls.
And by the way, initially track 8 was,
Has only outgoing calls.
but that was a temporary thing that only the New York AIS had. Track 9.
Temporarily.
That's for phase 1 and 2. Phase 3, that became
Has been temporarily.
track 10.
At the customer's request.
In phase 3, that became
At the customer's request.
different inflection. Track 11.
Is being changed.
Track 12.
The new number
Track 13.
is not yet connected.
In phase 3, that was changed to may not yet be connected. Track 14. Silence. That's the silence track. The one that in Atlanta goes. Anyway, track 15.
Calls are being taken by.
That is the reason, by the way, that when you hear the Macon AIS, the silence is a mixture of may not yet be connected, and calls are being taken by, because those are the two phrases right next to track 14. Now that's on the Weathercron machine, which probably has a different shape and style of magnetic drum. Anyway, that's why you hear those two phrases in the background of the Macon AIS. Track 16.
Is not in service.
Track 17.
Is a working number.
Track 18.
Please check the number.
Track 19.
And dial again.
Track 20.
If you need assistance,
Track 21.
please make a note of it.
Track 22.
You may stay on the line.
Track 23.
And an operator will answer.
Track 24.
1,000.
Track 25.
100.
Track 26.
Oh,
And that had an alternate.
oh.
Track 27.
1,
That had an alternate.
1,
Track 28.
2,
That had an alternate.
2,
Track 29.
3,
That had an alternate.
3,
Very close. Very hard to tell those two apart.
3, 3, 3, 3,
The original version was more 3.
3,
The other was just 3.
3,
Track 30.
4,
Track 31.
5,
Track 32.
6,
That had an alternate, which was only heard in Hempstead.
6,
We never heard it again after a short time in 1971. Track 33.
7,
Track 34.
8,
Track 35.
9,
Now begins the descending digits, and there were no alternates of those. Tracks 36 through 45.
0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9,
The downward inflection 5
5,
didn't quite sound downward. It was kind of non-committal.
area code 215, 555.
Track 46 was the reorder that would happen if an operator keyed something and the system didn't like it. In phase 4, with the operators eliminated, the reports tended to end with that. Track 47.
Area.
Now, this in phase 2 became,
Area code.
which had an alternate,
Area code.
track 48,
Will you dial it again, please?
and those are the lower 48. Now, the upper 48 were used for special localities, special area codes, and in Hempstead, Manhattan, Washington, D.C., and Philadelphia, they were used for letters.
OX5 3552 is a working number. Will you dial it again, please? TR7.
You know, when I first heard AIS in 1970, I didn't know the name of the announcer, and I had no idea she was from the South until
MO1 2000 is a working number.
M,
MNA8
and then there was
1000 is a working number. Will you dial it again, please? N.
Oh, come on, Jane. Listen to that revertive pulsing.
Will you dial it again, please?
See? You're in New York. Now repeat after me. N.
N.
Okay, I give up. But at least try this. Manhattan.
Manhattan.
Oh, no, you didn't. That was really good.
Thank you.
As I was saying, the upper 48 phrases did vary according to the needs of the local AIS. Most of them didn't need letters. Some didn't even have special localities. Manhattan had special localities and letters, and I specifically remember that the 50s were special localities and the 70s were letters. Here is a very likely scenario for Manhattan. The only thing that could be off about this is the order of the special localities. For the AIS at 5030 Broadway, Manhattan, here are tracks 51 through 65.
In Manhattan, in the Bronx, in Brooklyn, in Queens, in Staten Island, in Nassau, in Suffolk, in New Jersey, in Connecticut, in Newark, in Philadelphia, in Pennsylvania, in Massachusetts, in Rockland County, in Westchester County.
And now here are tracks 66 through 89. These have been properly aligned.
A, B, C, D, E, F, G, H, I, J,
K,
L, M, N, O, P, R, S, T, U, V, W, X, Y.
I've looked everywhere I can think to look for the letter K. All the open reel tapes that cover the 1974 period, when I was first calling the Philadelphia and Washington, D.C. AISs, the Prince William County tape even. I seem to remember hearing somewhere KI6 or KI8. KI6 would be from the Philly area, KI8 would be from Alexandria, Virginia, but I've not found any recordings of that being said. It may be in the tapes somewhere. Probably not New York City. Now, New York City did have some Kingsbridge exchanges, which in later years were in the Jane AIS area, but Ben would have gotten that when he recorded all the letters, and he did not. So it remains a mystery as to how I have this memory of hearing KI6 or KI8. If I find it, I'll put it in here. Tracks 90 through 96 in all of the AISs that had those tracks used at all were special area codes. Here are tracks 90 through 96 in Manhattan during Phase 2. In Phase 1, these said 516 area, 914 area, etc.
201, 203, 215, 516, 609, 617, 914.
The programming of the AIS was such that if you wanted to announce a special locality, such as
In southeastern Pennsylvania.
For a 10-digit number, you had to use a pre-recorded special area code, such as
215 area.
in Phase 1, that sounded like this.
The new number is 727-2281 in southeastern Pennsylvania, in the 215 area.
And here's how it was done in Phase 2.
The new number is area code 609-555-2368 in New Jersey.
In Phase 3, first tested in 1978, the need for the special area codes was eliminated, and it became possible to spell out any area code with a special locality.
The new number is area code 212-877-3552 in New York City.
With the need for special area codes eliminated, that freed up tracks 90 through 96, and Phase 3 had a use for them all. There were 7 new phrases that appeared in Phase 3, and they were
Is being checked for trouble. Please try your call again later.
those were used for a number that was supposed to be working that came into AIS with automatic identification. Prior to Phase 3, that would have gone to the operator. Working numbers that came in on ONI, operator number identification, in all phases did this.
Is a working number. Will you dial it again, please?
Another new phrase was
disconnected,
as in.
has been temporarily disconnected.
Then there was disconnected and, as in has been temporarily disconnected and calls are being taken by. Another phrase, removed from service and, to be used with calls are being taken by, was for numbers that were temporarily out of service that they wanted to refer. In phase 2, this function was accomplished thusly.
The number you have reached, 374-9970, is not in service. Temporarily. Calls are being taken by area code 617-599-2581 in Massachusetts. Please make a note of it. 374.
Well, that's a bit awkward, isn't it? Not only does it say is not in service temporarily, but it gives the caller the opportunity to just hang up after hearing is not in service. It's for that reason that they changed it to has been temporarily removed from service and calls are being taken by. The two remaining phrases added for phase 3 were and is toll free and is no longer toll free. And that uses up the 7 spaces made vacant by the special area codes no longer being needed. But there was an 8th new phrase that had to be standard issue on all Phase 3 AIS machines, even if the individual AIS didn't use it. And that phrase was this. Phase 3 is when this became standard issue.
The number you have reached, at the customer's request.
Most AISs that went to the Phase 3 software did use this tone, so it had to be somewhere. Now, in the case of the Manhattan AIS, we had every track number accounted for except for tracks 49 and 50. Phase 3 eliminates the need for the special area codes,
201, 203, 215,
etc., so that frees up tracks 90 through 96. Those plus tracks 49 and 50 equals 9 available spots, and we have 8 new phrases, including the special information tone. So those 8 probably went into those 9 spots, leaving 1 spare. Now, what about a place where all number calling has been so long established that the AIS has no need for letters? Well, that opens up more room for special localities, of course. Not all AISs used it, however. The world's second AIS in Minneapolis had, according to them, no special localities at all and no letters. I did put in some test numbers, but that was mostly to experiment. For example, the Bell system doesn't like to assign numbers ending in 0000. What happens if the target number, the number to which the report refers, ends in 0000?
The number you have reached, 335-3969, is being changed. The new number, 300-0,000. In the 300 area is not yet connected. Please make a note of it. 335.
As you can see, Minneapolis was on Phase 1 at this time. That was recorded in 1974. And by the way, the test numbers that I made were never audible to customers. I would put them on numbers that were permanent busies, usually. The 3969s in Minneapolis were just that. In order to actually hear the AIS announce my test number, you had to call a different phone number, one that went to operator number identification, and then give her the number of the busy test. So it was impossible for customers to ever get these. That was my best attempt, being 16 years old, to do no harm. In any event, that experiment indicated that Bell Labs, at least as of Phase 1, never anticipated that their phone companies would ever refer anyone to a number ending in 0000. Otherwise, they wouldn't have defaulted to
0,000.
Now, Atlanta and Cleveland had no letters, and they had a whole bunch of special localities. Atlanta apparently used them all. Cleveland, I'm not sure, but there's a funny story about Cleveland. First of all, it had all 7 special area code slots used, and because of a peculiarity in the programming, there could only be 7 special area codes maximum, and they were always in the track 90 through 96 range. Here are the special area codes that Cleveland had on those tracks 90 through 96, with an associated city for each one.
In Toledo, in the 419 area. In Cincinnati, in the 513 area. In Columbus, in the 614 area. In Chicago, in the 312 area. In Detroit, in the 313 area. In Buffalo, in the 716 area. In Newark, in the 201 area.
Interesting they had Newark, but they didn't have New York City. Then there was a list, alphabetical, of places in Ohio, from Akron to Youngstown. All you had to do was misspell the name Elyria so that it has an A instead of an E, and these cities will be in perfect alphabetical order.
In the Akron area, in the Elyria area, in Aurora, in Avon Lake, in Bainbridge, in Brunswick, in Chagrin Falls, in Hubbard, in Hudson, in Kent, in Kirkland, in the Lorraine area, in Macedonia, in Madison, in Mattawa, in the Medina area, in Mentor, in Mentor Lake, in Middlefield, in Newberry, in Northfield, in North Ridgeville, in Novelty, in Painesville, in Russell, in Streetsboro, in Twinsburg, in the Warren area, in West Richfield, in Windsor, in the Youngstown area.
But then, at the very end of the list, not in alphabetical order, they had
In Hinckley,
Hinckley, a tiny little town famous only for its buzzards. I kid you not. This clearly was a joke. They had a certain number of spaces into which they could write the names of the special localities they wanted. They could only think of 38, so they said, what the heck? Hinckley. And so that went down to Atlanta, and Jane read it off the paper, and there we have.
in Hinckley,
But look what that points to. 39 spaces for special localities plus 7 area codes equals 46. That's 2 tracks left over. So thanks to,
in Hinckley,
we now know that there were 46 available slots for special localities, special area codes, and letters, and both New York and Cleveland used them all. Not one less, not one more, although in Cleveland's case it took Hinckley to fill it all the way up. In Phase 2, there were 2 tracks left over. In Phase 3, that goes down to 1 track left over. Phase 4 occurred sometime, I think, in the middle 80s. I'm not clear on the date, but its whole orientation was to eliminate the operators. The reports were changed so that they would typically repeat the information and then end in a reorder. For this purpose, 2 more phrases were created.
No further information is available about.
That was used on the straightforward disconnect, and you could tell that it was added at a different time than the other phrases because those 2 had a lot of room echo.
No further information is available about.
I don't know where they found room for those 2 phrases, but no report offered to give the caller an operator, as far as I know. So the 3 tracks containing these phrases probably became available.
If you need assistance, you may stay on the line, and an operator will answer.
So sad. I can confirm, however, that in May 1987, the date of my second to last phone tape before Nantes, there still were operators, despite the fact that no report actually went to an operator. However, if there was what was called an AIC failure, you did get an operator, very centralized, handling more than one AIS unit from one location. Another possibility is that they sacrificed 2 of the special locality phrases. which in most places weren't being used anyway. The problem was that although with good intentions Bell Labs set the AIS up so that you did have room for lots of special localities, they didn't program it so that they would be announced automatically. In fact, the telephone companies had to specially transcode the data in order to make the AIS announce those special localities. For example, if the file administration people for the Manhattan AIS, not the AIS people, but the file administration people who keep track of disconnected and changed numbers and then forward that information to AIS, if they had wanted the AIS to actually announce something like Nassau County,
in Nassau,
they would have had to do the following. First, put the number that is being changed on a special status, different from the status number used for most changed numbers. Even worse, you couldn't use area code 516. In the field where the area code of the referred number would normally go, instead of 516, they had to put in 356.
What?
What did that mean? Well, the 3 referred to track 93, which was
516,
the 56 referred to track 56, which was,
in Nassau,
but they also had to make note which 516 office codes were in Nassau County and which were in Suffolk County. For the Suffolk numbers, they had to use pseudo area code 357.
No, you can't do that.
3
516,
plus 57.
in Suffolk,
You can see why this was such a hassle and so confusing that those special localities recorded by Jane, dug up and preserved by Ben, Dave, and me, were never heard. Except here.
Evan, you're a true friend.
An obsessed fan of that voice when I was 16. And by the way, Jane, would you please read the phone book? Just count.
1, 2, 3, 4,
See?
5,
Perfectly reasonable to listen to this, isn't it?
8,
Anyway,
9,
this is not the
10,
place to go to get
11,
AIS resources,
12,
except for
13,
the letters. Those are the
14,
only phrases that I have
15,
centered and aligned
16,
correctly, each in its
17,
precise
18,
500 millisecond time
19,
slot.
20,
You can count forward from the
21,
tick, and you'll
22,
find the A occupies
23,
the space between
24,
500 and 1,000
25,
milliseconds, the
26,
B between 1,000 and
27,
1,500,
28,
and so on, all the way
29,
to the end
30,
of the
31,
24-character alphabet.
32,
Don't forget,
33,
there's no Q.
34,
As for the rest of
35,
these phrases, I'm going to find a
36,
place to put them,
37,
and the resource
38,
library will slowly grow
39,
as
40,
other people clip out
41,
good-sounding AIS phrases
42,
as well.
43,
I'm sorry to say that we
44,
don't have a complete
45,
set of phrases that all
46,
sound perfectly good
47,
and very much
48,
the same, but
49,
it can get better than
50,
what you've heard here
51,
for most of them.
52,
There are
53,
more questions I want to
54,
answer, but let me put this
55,
aside for a while.
56,
The sheer number of tedious
57,
edits here has been
58,
staggering.
59. O'clock.
Later.